We've all got our favorite moments from our favorite movies. Sometimes we think, wow, the screenwriter was really onto something. But did you know that there are many accidental movie bloopers that became iconic moments? That's right. Many of your favorite movie moments were actually bloopers. Yet, the filmmakers had the foresight to know that these would be great additions to the movie. Whether it was an iconic catchphrase or a furry friend who wanted more screen time, these bloopers are what added the icing on the cake. Today, we'll look back at some of these happy accidents that made some of the best scenes in our favorite films. Also, if you're looking for great movie recommendations, you're in the right place. Calvin Candy's cut. If you've seen Django Unchained, you know that one of the most sadistic characters is Calvin Candy, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. There's one scene where he grabs onto a glass, and he holds it so firmly that it breaks. The shard of glass cut Leonardo DiCaprio's hand, and he started bleeding. But ever the professional Leo continues to remain in character, and his bleeding shows up in the film. Quentin Tarantino decided to keep the scene as it was. He felt this would add to the intensity of the film and the character. It certainly did, and one could say that this scene is one of the many reasons why Calvin Candy is one of Tarantino's greatest creations. Even after cutting his hand and as he bleeds, Calvin Candy continues to talk and threatens the other characters. He remains menacing even in a moment that seems like it might weaken him. It seemed that Leo knew exactly what made a great Tarantino villain, and that he didn't dare stop acting just because of some gushing blood. Here, kitty kitty. Even the most frightening characters in cinema have a softer element to them. Or, you can even say that these seemingly softer moments are what makes the character so frightening. In From Russia with Love, we never see Blofeld's face, but we know that he is menacing, and we mostly see him stroking a cat, which makes him even more menacing. This same cat ploy was used when we first met Don Corleone in The Godfather, but this was an accidental blooper. A cat somehow entered the set and jumped on Marlon Brando's lap. Rather than asking Francis Ford Coppola to yell cut, Marlon Brando continued to act with the cat in his lap. This showed a juxtaposition between the intensity of Don Corleone, but also the gentleness that we would see in moments of the film. It was a perfect introduction to who the character was. Perhaps the cat should have been mentioned in the credits. I'm walking here. One of the most famous scenes in Midnight Cowboy is when Joe Buck and Ratso are walking down the street. As they cross the street, a taxi almost hits Ratso. He hits the taxi, screams at the driver, and screams, "I'm walking here." This was a tense scene in the movie, and remains one of the most iconic moments in the film. But what's really interesting is that it was an accidental blooper. The taxi driver almost did hit Dustin Hoffman, and his apprehension and anger were real. The line "I'm walking here" was improvised by Dustin Hoffman, who managed to stay in character, even after almost getting hit by a car. This is a great example of what makes a professional actor. Even after almost getting injured, he remained in character, and made one of the most memorable scenes in the film. We wonder what happened to the taxi driver. But why male models? One of the biggest nightmares for an actor is that they keep forgetting their lines. Take after take will have to be taken, and this is a major stressor on a film set. But what happens if forgetting a line actually makes the scene more interesting? In one scene in Zoolander, Ben Stiller asks the question, "So why male models?" Afterward, Will Ferrell's character gives a lengthy answer to this question. Unfortunately, Ben Stiller completely forgot the correct response that the screenwriter had written. As a result, he simply responded by saying, "But why male models?" Pretty much the same thing he had asked first. While this was an accidental blooper, it actually made the scene even funnier. It showed Derek Zoolander's airheadedness, and went perfectly with the character and the overall movie. So sometimes forgetting a line isn't such a bad thing. But if you're an actor, don't get too many ideas. Mrs. Doubtfire's face. You know that Robin Williams had a hand in creating Mrs. Doubtfire, as he did all his characters. We know that his improvisation is what made his characters rich, but he was also a master of improvising even when things went wrong. The accidental blooper in Mrs. Doubtfire wasn't a challenge for him. There's one scene where he's wearing cream on his face, and the lighting from the movie set begins to melt the cream, making it look awkward. However, Robin Williams stayed in character and improvised his lines, coming up with an explanation as to why the cream was rolling down his face. He was always a genius at coming up with new lines, and this accidental blooper added extra comedy to one of his funniest films. Want an Orange, Rocky? One of the greatest scenes in Rocky is when he does his exercise montage, as he prepares for the big fight. In one scene in the montage, he's running through the streets of Philadelphia, and the locals didn't realize that this was an actor who was playing a role. One street vendor tosses Sylvester Stallone an orange, which he catches. This is one of the most memorable moments in the film. But it's an accidental blooper, and it worked just perfectly for the montage. One wonders if the orange seller knew that he was tossing an orange at someone who would become one of the biggest movie stars of all time. The best actors know how to improvise when such happy accidents happen during the shooting of a scene. While Sylvester Stallone was still a newbie when Rocky was being made, it was clear that he already had the workings of a professional. What do you call people from Haiti? We all know that people from Haiti are called Haitians, but apparently, Alicia Silverstone did not know this when she was filming one of the funniest scenes in the film Clueless. Her character is giving a presentation when she refers to the people of Haiti as Haitians. This may seem that it was written for the character who was, as the film's title suggests, clueless. However, this was an accidental blooper. It was a genuine mispronunciation by Alicia Silverstone, and it was enough to get one of the big laughs in the film. This shows that the director knew that the mistake worked perfectly with the essence of the character and the film. It's a scene that you'll enjoy time and time again if you enjoy a great laugh. Just don't take it as advice if you're a geography teacher. It's a scene that you'll enjoy time and time again if you enjoy a great laugh. Just don't take it as advice if you're a geography teacher. It's a scene that you'll enjoy time and time again if you enjoy a great laugh. Just don't take it as advice if you're a geography teacher. Kelly Clarkson. One of the most uncomfortable scenes in The 40-Year-Old Virgin is when Andy, played by Steve Carell, is being waxed. What's even more shocking is that Steve Carell was actually getting waxed in the scene. His professionalism is what kept him in character even while he was going through this uncomfortable process. However, there was one accidental blooper when he shouted out a line that hadn't been scripted. Throughout the scene, he screams many expletives to express his pain. Yet one expletive that wasn't written in and is rather odd is when Andy screams Kelly Clarkson. It was unusual, uncalled for, and unforgettable. This was an accidental blooper that has somehow become one of the most iconic moments in the film. The Fall of the Princess. One of the most memorable movies that deals with a royal is The Princess Diaries. Anne Hathaway plays Mia, who thinks of herself as an ordinary teenager, and certainly not a princess. Therefore, it was necessary for the film to show her vulnerabilities and even her goofiness. There was one scene where she was climbing up the bleachers that had been wet due to heavy rain. The actress slipped, and this was obviously not scripted. But this accidental blooper was kept in the film, as it was a perfect way to show her vulnerability. The filmmaker understood the character and the story, and realized that this actual accident was indeed a happy accident, and worked perfectly for the movie. It brought the princess down to earth literally. Marty's parents don't recognize him. We're not sure whether this is an accidental blooper or something that we have to think about a bit more. In Back to the Future, Marty goes back in time to meet his parents. When he returns to the future, he is not recognized by his parents. This is something we just accept, and Back to the Future remains a successful film and franchise. Whether this is an accidental blooper, something the creators didn't think about, or something that has a hidden meaning, perhaps we'll never know. But this is arguably one of the most interesting factors about this great film. Are you a fan of any of these movies? It's quite amazing that these accidental bloopers became happy accidents and went on to become the most iconic moments in the film. Now, here's what we'd like to hear from you. Do you think that today's films are just as experimental as some of these classics? Or do today's filmmakers try to play it safe and not consider how accidental bloopers can help them?